know, but what you cooking, man?
What's up, everybody? Tuesday morning. You know what that means. It's time. The crew for Iron Minds. Good to see y'all. How's everybody doing today? Nick, what are you doing to that wall, Nick? You abusing that thing? What are you doing?
I'm holding it up, man. You know, when Lombard says
It looks
it's
like
bad
it.
day to be a brick wall, I'm practicing.
Yeah, it looks like that's what's going on. Michael Lombard, how are you, my friend?
What's going on, everybody?
Like it.
Good morning. Good morning.
Well, see, Nick, the thing is we can only see from the shoulders up, so we're really at a loss for what you're actually doing. It does look like you're holding the wall up, so, you know. Oh, there we go, vertical approach. Pedro, what's up, my friend? Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are all of you? It's a lovely Tuesday morning, isn't it? It's a nice time to get up, get active, go ahead, get your steps in early, and then you go to the gym later and get in a second one, because that's what I'm going to do. Listen to me sounding like Mr. Michael Lombard over here.
That's who we all want to be when we grow up. That's it. We just want to be Michael Lombard.
Guys, getting it done. Yeah, that's what I did on Tuesdays. That's how it's been during this previous cycle. I come out for Iron Minds. I get the legs warm, and then I dart right to Orange Theory for a workout. I get right to it.
You notice Michael did not respond that he wants to be like us when he grows up. You guys catch that? There's no mention of that.
There are little pieces of each of you that I'm trying to be. That's why I put myself in your company. That's why I am in your company, so I can get the best parts of Trey, Nick, and Pedro to enhance what I'm doing. Right. That's what it's all about.
See, I think Michael Lombard could be a politician. Do you see how Michael just spun that? I think he'd be a politician.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Like, man, you can tell this boy's in PR and marketing.
Lombard, baby.
Oh, man. Hey, speaking of PR and marketing, we should say a little something about what's coming up here. Well, first of all, this week is TIA. Everybody's going to be at TIA this week. But what's coming up in 3 weeks? We got Broker Carrier Summit. We got free truck parking. I got to tell you, listen, if you're a carrier, if you're a trucker out there and you watch this and you're not signed up for the Broker Carrier Summit, reconsider. It's definitely worth it. We got free truck parking. I just sent out, check this out. We're trying to make it more profitable for carriers to come to the Broker Carrier Summit. So I just sent out an email last night to all the registered brokers with a form that they can fill out with loads that they typically have going to or from Indianapolis. And then we're going to give that list to the carriers so that they can call the brokers to try to get a load to Indianapolis from a BCS registered broker. Like nice. That's going to hopefully be a way that people can work together from the very beginning, and we can make it better, easier for carriers. If you're going to pull your truck off the road for a couple of days, it might be nice to make a few bucks on the way in and on the way out. So we're going to see how that works, but make sure you sign up at brokercarriersummit.com. It's going to be a phenomenal event, and it's coming up, man. 3 weeks.
Man,
how's that keynote coming along, dude?
As sung, but has anybody else ever done that? I've never heard of that before.
I don't think anybody has, and all we're trying to do is just make it a little bit easier for a carrier to say, "Yeah, I'll go to that." And so that's what we're doing for that.
Is a game changer.
Yeah, we're just seeing if it works, and if it doesn't work, we're not going to do it. But that's the fun thing about the Broker Carrier Summit. We just keep trying stuff, seeing what works. So we're going to give a list of potentially available loads. It's not a load board. There's nothing guaranteed here. It's just a broker saying, "Hey, I typically have this load in Indianapolis. Give me a call." And then they can see if they can work it out. But we'll see if it works. But that's one of the new things that we're doing this time around is trying to make it easy for carriers to come. Free truck parking by our friends over at Truck Parking Club, which the code for that is BCS Indy, all lowercase, BCS Indy. If you go to truckparkingclub.com, you can search for a spot, put that code in there around the Indy facilities and get free truck parking while you're there. Unfortunately, it's not on site, but that's okay. That's more us picking the wrong property for that. but we're going to make that change in the future so that we have the right properties. But thanks to Michael Lombard and the whole crew, Evan Shelley, Reed Louse the Load, Britton Hutto and company, Tommy Truck Parking, we should say it is. We appreciate all of them for helping out with all that. But yeah, BCS Indy is the coupon code for free truck parking. And when you register for the BCS, we're going to give you that list of potentially available loads from BCS registered brokers. And we're going to see if it works. We'll see what happens. So that's exciting.
Love that.
Coming up. It's coming up. All right. With that being said, guys, listen, I got to say this. I'm really excited. We actually have a sponsor now for the Iron Mind sessions at Broker Carrier Summit. So Wednesday morning and Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. We're going to be doing something. I think Wednesday morning is going to be more cardio, maybe a 5K walk run of some sort. And then Thursday is going to be more like a yoga or Pilates or something along those lines, stretching routine. Again, just to get you up, get your body moving. I know you're going to stay up late. We got late night karaoke till midnight, so I know it's going to be late. But just like finish karaoke, go straight back to your room, go to bed, get up at 6:30, and get a little workout in, a little movement in on Thursday at Broker Carrier Summit. So good stuff, man. I'm looking forward to it. And we got shirts. We're gonna have performance shirts with Iron Minds presented by Chain. I just designed them last night. In fact, you can find it on supplychainswag.com. You can order your own if you want to have one on the way to the summit. So a lot of cool stuff, man. A lot of good stuff going on. All right, what are we going to talk about this morning? What do we want to share with the fine folks out there?
Man, I got an idea because I've been on it all day yesterday too, and I'm just thinking that the way that we talk to ourselves and how much it influences the decisions and actions we make and take throughout the day, and it all starts in the morning. You know, I had a day yesterday where I was just in my head a lot. Woke up tired, a few things were off, and I just leaked. I focused on the negativity and I couldn't stop. And I even got to the point where I realized that it was all in my head and that it was a choice and that I actually decided that I wasn't done being pissed off yet. And I decided I wanted to be mad a little bit longer, but I didn't want to do anything about it. And so the only person who suffers in that is me. But I was, this morning, I kind of woke up with the same, I brought yesterday's problems in today and they were talking to me. The difference being today is I said no. Out loud, I said no. Like, no, we're going to think about positive shit today. And I manifested the run. I manifested this. I manifested the recording session. I manifested doing my taxes today. Just to
Whoa. That's a little much. That's a little crazy.
We should manifest. People need to manifest not doing them.
Yeah,
collectively. Exactly. We all will that into existence.
We really do. Like that, if you really want to do something, Nick, for the people, let's do that. Let's manifest no taxes. Yeah, manifest.
The way that we talk to ourselves influences the way that we act, and I think I'd love to hear some additional thoughts on that, because that's what I talk about mindset all day, every day, but that doesn't mean that I'm not susceptible to the same type of negativity, doubt, self-talk, anxiety that everybody else is too.
I've been getting super big on this stuff, with this idea of changing thoughts, the mind-body connection. Like I said, there's this guy out there, Joe Dispenza, who's big on this idea of tapping into, of changing your thought. And I think I had mentioned this before about, like, at a certain point, it's a Teddy Roosevelt quote, believe you can, and you're halfway there. And like when I had signed up for Ironman Texas in June, I did not believe that I could do it. But about 2 months later, I believed that I could. Like I knew that it was a foregone conclusion. But kind of going back a few days ago, I jumped on a friend of mine's podcast, and we were talking about transformations. It was me, it was the three of us having a conversation. We were just talking about transformations in general, like fitness journey. And I had kind of gone through my transformation, talking about when I started to feel as though I had control over my life and what I was doing and direction, giving me a sense of purpose. And the first sign of it was when I had turned down that promotion at my previous job when I was working at the warehouse. Because in my heart, now, if it was, and that came, 8-9 months into me, getting back into exercise. And if this was 2018 and I was off that promotion, I would have taken it because I would have felt as though that was my only path forward, not because I wanted it. But when I turned down that promotion, I knew deep down I did not want it because I knew what I was worth for it. I knew what the job should have paid. So turning it down where it felt very uncomfortable, like it hurt, like it was like it made my skin crawl, like it hurt to turn it down because I thought I was hurting myself. When I was negotiating for that salary, and when it was all said and done, I felt liberated. I felt like I got one hand was on the horns of the bull. And then the second time was again going ahead, committing to getting my CDL, moving to Texas when for the most part, my immediate surroundings were giving me every reason not to. So going against that and digging my heels in and doing something that I personally wanted. And this isn't just like I personally wanted, like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go eat this today. Like committing to something big. I'm going to move across the country, get my CDL, change careers, and where everybody around me is telling me don't do it and giving me all the negatives. Once that was finally done, almost like a cold shower, once I got rid of that ugly, uncomfortable feeling, that was the second hand on the horns of the bull. And since then, I've felt as though I had autonomy over controlling that. I'm not going to listen to what everybody else is saying. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to trust myself, change how I think, change how I act.
You finally believe that you were the acting force behind your life. And that's powerful. Once you realize that you actually can control more than you think you can. I mean, there's a lot of things we can't control in life. Can't control the weather. Can't control other people's feelings. There's a lot of things we can't control in life. We can't, control sales efforts. Like you can't make anybody buy anything. There's a lot of things you can't control. But when you realize that there are a lot of things you can control about your own self and your own destiny, and choices that you make, man, that's a powerful mental thought to have, man. That's huge. That's huge.
You know what? When you said about put something big or have something big, that's actually what helped me yesterday. Because what I'm trying to do in business, I'm starting from scratch and I've got really big goals. So even though I was in that mood yesterday, I didn't let it stop me from doing the work. I made the list and attacked the list. And the other thing, of course, training for Ironman, training for Spartans, and I've got big goals there too. So that's one thing that helps me get out of my own head is simple action, just action. I mean, you have a bigger goal, a bigger purpose, a bigger why, or a bigger thing that you're pursuing. There's always something that you can do to put yourself in a better position to achieve your goals.
Boy, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth, man? That's powerful stuff, dude.
There is something deep. I mean, there's, going more into more of that stuff that Joe Dispenza talked about with mindfulness and meditation in general. This idea of detaching and regaining control and focus, like cutting out the noise, and you can virtually meditate anywhere, but like shutting yourself off from everything and just intentionally thinking about something you want or something you want to do or how you want to feel, like practicing that mindfulness of cutting out all bits of noise. And that's why I talk about and I had mentioned that's why Ironman changed my life, was like doing that event. You are very detached. There's no crowd engagement on the bike ride. You are alone virtually for all of it. There's no phones. Nobody has headphones. You can't. Yeah, the swim as well. I mean, there's nothing. You can't do anything it's just the work. Like all you can do is just that, and you become so detached after such a long period of time. You at a certain point, there's this feeling of like when you're that detached and you're only just focused on one thing. There's nothing else on the outside that matters. Not the bills, not this, not tariffs, there's nothing going on but the mission that you're on during an event like that. And you could do that with other things. Like you can do that, but it takes cutting out the noise. It maybe takes ignoring a little bit of technology. And when you laser in on that one thing, and that's what you put your thoughts on, and your mind and body can connect on that one thing, then you're good. Then the universe is going to meet you where you're at.
When I did that last the Spartan race in Killington, Vermont that I DNF'd last year, It was the hardest I've ever worked in anything. And I was telling my wife about it the other day. I mean, that's not a slow and steady race. I'm literally climbing a mountain, gritting it as if I'm trying to run my fastest times. And I mean, that was absolute suffering every second I was out there. And I loved it. And I am not a glutton for punishment. I am not Goggins. And I think the reason I loved it is because I was free. I was so focused on that one thing. There was nothing else in the world even close to my thoughts. It was just me against the mountain.
Yeah. It's a scary place to take yourself, but it is a liberating place to take yourself.
Who would have thought
just you and your thoughts. What's that, Nick?
I'm sorry. I was going to say, who would have thought that, facing death, climbing up and running up a mountain would be far more liberating than, paying bills.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild thought when you put yourself in that spot, of it's just you and your thoughts. I think that's, I've been watching some things on special out forces and like SEAL training and those types of things. That's really what it is, man. They are in many ways putting you alone with your thoughts to see if you can make it through, see if you can force yourself to keep going or to not be impacted by the cold water or whatever it is. Like a lot of it is just mental training so that you won't break on the battlefield, so you'll stay calm under pressure, all those kind of things. And man, it's a scary but also liberating place to take yourself in life. That is for sure.
I heard about a guy yesterday. I was watching something on YouTube, and I don't know if he still got the record, but I guess the world record for a plank is something over 10 hours.
Wow, that's a long time.
And the whole thing was on mental toughness, and I guess the guy speaks on mental toughness, and I can't imagine, I don't know how many movies you have to watch in your head for a 10-hour plank.
That's nuts, dude. That's really nuts. Is it like a push-up plank or like an elbow plank? I mean, I know it doesn't matter, but I'm curious.
I'm not sure. I was watching like a TED talk, and the guy was talking about it. I didn't look it up after that. He was doing a regular elbow planks or forearm planks. So I'm assuming it was that. I don't know. I mean, yeah, either way, honestly, it
doesn't really matter.
In one position for 10 hours.
Do anything in one position for 10 hours. I think about like race car drivers. They're in this like an IndyCar driver. You're in this really tight capsule. Your arms can do this, and that's it. Your legs can do this, like your feet can do this, and it's 3.5 hours. And you're in the car. You can't get out. It's pretty wild just to think about staying that laser focused for that long and just having that kind of mental toughness. That's really pretty wild. So crazy.
Kind of going along with this same concept we're going in on. When I was on that show, we were also talking about these new habits that people are they're not new. I'd say they're resurged habits people have been getting back into. This idea of like making a vision board, doing journaling. And what's crazy about that stuff is that's what people have always done, like for most of history. Like when you think of history, like the only reason we know so much about certain wars, certain battles, because like your regular everyday soldier was journaling. Like they were writing letters, they were writing down in a journal. They kept a journal, like that. Not just officers, like regular dudes in World War I or what have you were still writing. And I'd say up until the Second World War, like it was still very common for regular people to just write down like what their day was and write down what they were doing and how like who they were with, who they were friends with. And same thing with like having a vision board, like putting in front of you kind of what your goals are. That's any business really does that. I mean, we go all the way back to Marcus Aurelius, the meditations. When you think about the Stoics, like these guys were doing this thousands of years ago, and all of a sudden we're realizing like, oh, this stuff actually works. Like I wrote this down every day for 6 months, and all of a sudden I got it. We're like, how does this work? And it's like, well, it kind of always has.
Well, we're still doing it, Nick or Michael, but we're calling it Facebook, and it's different than it was before because now we're only putting on the positive things that happen in life.
Oh, that's not
back
true.
then.
That's
those guys
true.
were well. That's not that's true. Well, I'm talking in general, Nick.
People love to bring you into their misery too. Don't forget.
That's true. That's also true. But I think that it's not like you said, Michael, where you're documenting the whole day and how you felt and what you were really thinking about in that moment. It's it is powerful. And here's an example that I thought was really fascinating. So we had the tech theater run through last night. It was like, we were there for 4 or 5 hours, something like that. We're just practicing this play that we got Thursday, Friday. And one thing we asked the kids to do was to take their phone and put it away, to put it on the chairs for the next 3 hours while we do this play. And that's a really hard thing for them to do, to not have their phone with them for 3 hours and just think, just to be alone with their thoughts backstage or focused on this play. And even that is a difficult thing for them to do, step away from their phone for 3 hours to do a play, because we've become so dependent upon it. We're not comfortable being alone with our thoughts anymore. Like, it's just not comfortable. It's hard to be alone.
Trey, if I could, I'd like to pull off that, man. The unplugging, how good that can be for your soul, for your mental health, man. I had just talked with Lombard months ago, but we were talking about going on walks and runs and stuff like that. And like, I don't wear earbuds or anything when I go exercise, even at the gym. Like, I like to hear my surroundings and just be alone with my thoughts. Like, I get some of my best thinking done when there is no technology around me. Sometimes I go on my walk, I leave my phone at the house. My wife gets mad because she doesn't know where I go. Because sometimes I'll be gone for an hour and a half just walking around.
Yeah.
But the unplugging thing, man. Even when we go exercise, you have your earbuds, you have your phone. I go to the gym, I watch people. They're sort of watching movies on their phone. Hey, whatever gets you to your exercise, that's great. I take that, but I think that it's important that we start to pull back a little from technology sometimes and give us time with ourselves to reflect and think and and grow, I would even say.
It's nice to hear the birds. It's nice to hear the wind blowing. I remember hearing Brooks Koepka was talking about, he's a professional golfer. He was talking about warming up on the range, and now nowadays these younger golfers nowadays have earbuds in when they're on the range. They're listening to hype music, while they're doing what they're doing, that kind of thing. And he said, I don't want that, because part of being a golfer is listening to how the club hits the ball. That feedback helps you become a better golfer. And so it's interesting. It's like just being alone with your own thoughts, going on a walk without your phone. I'll tell you, the one thing I love about having I have the Apple Watch with GPS is that if I get in trouble, I can call somebody if I have to on my watch, but I don't have to carry my phone around, and there's not really a screen to watch because you can't watch something on your phone. And so I like that. I'll leave my phone and I'll go for a walk, and I don't have any AirPods and I don't have any distractions. And man, that is really, really powerful. It's really good for the soul. Hearing dogs barking, hearing geese nearby, the wind blow, the birds sing. There's something about that that's really healthy and really enjoyable. And I'm most creative when I do that. I go on walks to try to solve problems. If I've got a problem I can't solve, I go on a walk and just think. Because, man, you get 45 minutes to an hour without having anything in front of you, your brain can really work,
I listen to music when I'm doing warm-ups and stuff. I like watching YouTube videos. I consume good information. But when I'm running, I like listen to music. But when I'm in the races, like especially Spartans, I love being out in the elements, and I hate it when some idiot has a speaker blasting, which you're not supposed to do. But there's always the one. I'm like, dude, I didn't travel halfway across the country to listen to your Taylor Swift blasting.
There's always one.
It is. You're right in the middle of that suffering, and then all of a sudden you might notice just the water going through a creek or something, and you're like, wow, I'm out here.
And then you hear, shake it off. Shake it off. Yeah, it doesn't do any good. Oh, Michael Lombard, that headset looks good on you, dude.
Dude, this is Old Faithful right here. And kind of going along, speaking of this headset, going along with that conversation, there are stints when I was driving where like eventually you podcast yourself out. There's only so much music. Like, and there's plenty of times where I've just where I've driven 2-3 hours in silence, nothing but CV static, and there is something very liberating about those times, and the miles will just fly by. Like at certain times when you're just driving in silence and you're just fully lasered and you're just paying attention, you're just watching the mirrors and watching everything around you. I mean, there's definitely there's definitely some magic to it. You can't do it all the time, but at a certain point, you eventually, the noise, you want to cancel out, you want to get out of it.
Oh, very true.
This headset's
Very
doing me well. Rand McNally should be
Yep.
sending me free ones at this point.
Well, our boy Larry at Matt's is also wearing the old headset around. That's a good look when you're at Matt's. I got to tell you, I was definitely missing out not having a headset. That's for sure. That was definitely a really good look. So, oh man, good stuff. I went to the orthopedic surgeon yesterday. Got a checkup on my shoulder. I am making progress. I do not need an injection. They might do an MRI just to see what's going on here in like a month or so. But they're like, stay the course, just keep stretching, keep moving, and it'll eventually work itself out. And I definitely am seeing some progress, but man, it's been a rough go. That's for Jessica. Good morning. How are you, my friend? Sorry that we actually just put the comments in there. Those are the decompression times for me. Yeah, freeing with no sound and nothing happening. Got to see Jessica at Matt's for the first time. I have to give her a hug. That was cool. Good to see her at Matt's. That's for sure. So
I don't think people would need to detach from technology too much if it didn't follow so many people after work. Again, I think it's not that long ago. There was a point in time where when somebody, there's a lot of remote work and everything like that. But after a certain time, whether it be 5, 6 o'clock, like when people left the office, we're talking 80s, 90s. This is what I don't like when people use that term, oh, nobody wants to work anymore, or people don't work as hard. It's like there was a point in time where when somebody, like just in the 90s, early mid 2000s, if somebody left the office, you couldn't there was no email. You wouldn't call their home phone. Like if you were a manager, you're not going to call their home phone because you respected that they were eating dinner with their family. And now all of a sudden that's out the window. Now it's you must be available 24/7 for all of these actions and everything. And it's like, well, how did the world operate before that? Because I feel like the world, and people always talk about the good old days and things felt better, or it was better in the 90s, it was better in the 80s. Ask yourself what, like, if you're somebody who says like, man, it was so much better, things felt so much better in the 80s, really peel the layers of that onion back and ask why it felt better. Probably had to do with not being forced to be on demand 24 hours a day.
100%. And you talk about the 90s and the early 2000s. I went to work for DAT in 2012, and DAT at the time had a strict no overtime policy. And so you had your 8-hour shift with your, half-hour lunch, I think is what we had. So you were there for 8.5 hours. So I remember when I first started there, my shift was 5:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. And man, when 2 p.m. rolled around, you better be out of your desk walking out the building. I mean, there was no hanging out for 5 minutes. Like it was like, you're done. And I didn't take a computer home. Nobody called my phone. So from 2 o'clock until 5:30 the next day, I didn't talk to anybody at DAT. That was just 2012, 2013, 2014 when I did that job. And they probably still have a similar policy today because I know their inside sales team is all still in Beaverton, Oregon. They're all, in the office there. So I bet they probably have a similar policy still going today. And that's, there's something healthy about that. Like you said, I try not to reach out to anybody that depends on, that I depend on or depends on me. In the evening, a lot of times I'll schedule emails for the next morning as opposed to sending that night. But I'm still guilty of it a little bit. And there's that expectation, Michael, that you're just available. And that's not healthy, man. Back in the day, you'd go home, you just be home. Just be home. You do a hobby, you'd grill out, you'd go for a walk, you do something with your family or you do something by yourself, something you want to do and just enjoy. And you didn't think about work. And now, man, kids go to bed 10:30 at night, and I got some things to do. I hop on and last night, I hopped on at probably 11:45, and I knocked out emails for an hour and a half because I was behind. Man, that's not healthy.
You know what though? I want to offer a different perspective though, because at the same time,
let's hear it, Nick. Let's hear it.
At the same time, how many times of those of us working remotely do we do dishes in the middle of the day? Do we do laundry in the middle of the day? Do we run an errand? Do we take a personal call? Do we do personal things? Do you take your kids somewhere, something? I mean, working at night sometimes is just the cost of doing business when you don't do business during work time.
Yep, that is true.
That said, I think it's important to make very clear boundaries so you know the difference, because otherwise it's easy to convince yourself that you're always working, even if you take a 3-hour break in the middle of the afternoon.
There's a lot of truth in that. That is true. We've just changed the way that we do work. But man, it wasn't that long ago that you go to work for 8 hours, 8.5 hours, and you come home. And there's a clear distinction between both, you know, and you didn't do one and the other at the same time. You know, I remember like parents in the 80s and 90s, it was hard to get off work to go pick up your kid from school if they were sick. Like that, you know, that was a tough thing. And so that, again, it just wasn't that long ago that life was definitely very different. But I think we do have to go back to those days where we unplug just a little bit, like Pedro said. You know, it's healthy just to unplug a little bit and get away. I was listening to this podcast, this guy, and I can't remember his name. I apologize. But he unplugged from his phone and all devices for 7 weeks. And the way he did that was he went and lived at a monastery for 2 weeks. He went and lived with Amish for 2 weeks. And then he lived with his family for 3 weeks and nothing. And what was crazy was he actually had a neurologist work with him, and they studied his brain, and they did a memory test when he started and a memory test when he ended. And he improved by 47 percentage points in terms of his ability to remember things just because he wasn't on devices. It's really kind of pretty fascinating in terms of what the brain does when it's not dependent upon devices. And I got to tell you, man, there's times where I'm like, I kind of want to live without a device anymore. I mean, it's almost impossible, but there are times where I really don't want to have a device in my hand. But a lot of conveniences we get out of it sometimes too.
Well, yeah, when you're being overloaded with information, you can when you're overloaded with information that much over time. I mean, your mind and your brain and your eyes can only take in so much. And it's, you know, just like a computer, if it's taking something in, it's either it could be putting something out, or it's doing something within the chemicals in your brain to maybe take something that was semi-important that you have to remind yourself of, whether it be a phone call or this or something you had to do, and it's putting it on the back burner because something else has presented itself that is garnering your attention. So I mean, your mind can only take in so much before it starts discarding, you know, other content material.
And you know, what's crazy is I remember back in the day, I didn't live with a calendar, but you remembered when things were. You remembered when you had a game. You remember when you needed to be somewhere. You remembered, like, you just remember those things. You know, you might have one main calendar for the family, but like a lot of times, you know, I just remembered when I needed to be at the school for the game, to ride the bus. Like, it's crazy how we now are so dependent. And directions the same way. You'd remember how to get places, and now I tend to rely on the GPS. Even when I know where I'm going, I'll rely on it because I want to see if there's traffic and if I need to take an alternate route and those kind of things. And like back in the day, you just drive, you just remember where to get places. So it is interesting how much we remembered back in the day versus now we don't have to remember some of those things. And we're just overloaded by other pointless information that doesn't need to be memorized, you know? How many phone numbers do you guys have in your head? I might have 4. Maybe 6.
3.
Maybe 6. Yeah, it's not a lot anymore. Back in the day, you knew everybody's phone number. You had them memorized. It didn't take that long to do that. Plus, they were only 7 digits back when I was growing up. But that's definitely aging me right now. All right, gentlemen. Hey, listen, our time is up this morning. So great to see you guys as well. We only have 2 more episodes before we see each other in Indianapolis, and I got to tell you, a nice surprise next week. Next week on the show, we have Shiofra Neary joining us from England, from the United Kingdom.
Oh,
she's going to be here
Shifra.
next week. Join us. That's right. She's going to be here next week. She's going to be working out with us, and it's going to be great to have her on the show. So make sure you come back next week. Until then, don't forget to find your tribe, find your group. As we say, iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Find your tribe, find your group, sharpen one another out there. And until next time, peace out, everybody. We'll see you next week.